I have been actively avoiding this album. I saw the teasers and got a little bit worried, but then I saw the 14-minute mark on the music video and became very scared. The only thing I could compare this feeling to is how I sometimes get to the final few episodes of a TV series and decide to stop watching without finishing it. Or I'll get to the end of a video game and simply just not finish the game. I don't want to complete the consumption of the media because I've enjoyed it too much. I don't want to know how it ends, and I'm kind of okay with that if it means I don't have to experience the heartbreak of finishing a product and having to part with it in some ways. I don't love this trait about myself, but I feel that way about Luna and the post-Luna acts. I've been a fan since pre-debut, technically. My friend showed me Singing in the Rain on Rabbit, if anybody remembers that app, and it was really over from that point on. The Luna Collective is the pinnacle of concept work in K-pop, exactly what I'm looking for in the industry, and that in itself has caused me to in some ways not want to immediately experience the greatness that is. Does that make sense? Anyways, this is why I have avoided it for so long, but I have finally opened the ARTMS package and witnessed all that Club Icarus is, and I was very right to be afraid. I don't even know where to begin. I think there's genuinely more than 100 different themes and ideas you can pull from Club Icarus. The central message about being reborn like a phoenix wing, regaining access to your ability to fly after having been led to believe that you couldn't, is a lot to think about. The members have emphasized this idea in interviews about the album, about how they hope they can repurpose the cautionary tale of Icarus flying too close to the sun into a story about perseverance and finding hope in the ability to move on. The story of Icarus is a Greek myth about a man named, of course, Icarus, who, despite the warnings of his father, flies too close to the sun, causing his wings to melt, and he ultimately falls to his death. It's a cautionary tale about blind ambition, not having too much hubris in your motivations, as that could very much lead you to your own ruin. The members of ARTMS, as people who have flown too close to the sun, reforged this narrative into a lesson about renewal. The concept of rebirth and starting anew after a great fall is central to the Luna ethos, and something that ARTMS is very interested in developing as their own with each release. We go from Virtual Angel to the burning of the angel's wings to Icarus, a moment of complete brokenness. Our narrators have lost their wings and crashed onto the ground in ruin, but this is not the end of the story for ARTMS as it was for Icarus. This moment is salved in some ways by the song itself, a graceful and elegant orchestral piece that works as the musical vessel for the hope we have for restoration. The idea that your wings will eventually grow back, that you can one day fly away from here. Icarus the song is very elegant and pristine in its presentation, but pretty busy in its delivery. There are moments where it feels like there's more than one song playing at the same time, or more than one idea being expressed, especially when we flourish into the hook sections, and of course, most especially the choral outro section. Orchestral was the absolute way to go in terms of outlining this sensitive moment of brokenness. Almost tedious piano refrains and restless violins work together to capture so many strong emotions. The desperation to heal, but also the resentment from having fallen in the first place. There's a sense of anger or frustration, I understand, from the unnerving nature of the piano keys, the overlapping production and vocals all together. There's more than just one feeling that goes into the hope for renewal. It's also about grieving the loss of who you were before and all that you lost. It's kind of recognizing that despite the hope you feel for the future, what is right now in this moment is just not enough. You can no longer fly as you did before. It takes a lot more than hope for the future to reconcile with that, which inspires this sense of resentment we see in the film. Healing and renewal is the ideal, but taking vengeance upon the people who lied to and betrayed them is not off the table just yet.
어떻게 하면 엄마를 찾아 복수할 수 있나요?
You naturally come to resent the people and things that led to your own demise, which I think paints a very devastating portrait of the experience for us as fans. What stuck out to me the most on first impression with Icarus is the message about how you kind of lose yourself in the interest of engaging with culture. The digital aspects of the visuals, the song itself playing on the cassette tape at the end of the film, sort of reinforced this as part of a larger idea in regards to virtual angels and what exactly they are. These 5 people are trapped inside of a screen, are neither missing nor dead. Their form is just unrecognizable. The 5 of them have lost themselves in the digital world to some extent. The ARTMS we know are not the 5 individuals who make up this group. A part of who they truly are is lost forever in the transfer to the artists and idols we know them as. I think this speaks very strongly to parasocial relationships in K-pop, but also just the parasocial tendencies to how we engage with culture universally, not just K-pop and/or idols. I think about like the goals we set for ourselves to become well-read, to listen to more music, to become more cultural people may be the very devices of our own demise if we don't tighten the reins just a little bit. I think about a quote by John Lennon, and I know that because it's featured in the first Life is Strange game.
I'm not avoiding, just
Biding time, waiting for the elusive right moment.
exactly.
Max, don't wait too long. John Lennon once said that life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. Go on now. Don't let me stop you.
Life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. We kind of cut our own wings by waiting for life to happen, believing there's a certain amount of culture we must experience before being able to create, to truly live for ourselves. ARTMS repurposes the phrase Icarus falls as a word of caution to Icarus falls, as a matter of fact that this is what happened. A statement of hope for renewal, but an acknowledgement of the ruin it takes to be actually reborn. Despite the warnings of his father, Icarus could not be saved from himself and his own ambitions, and so perhaps in some ways we can't be saved from our own parasocial tendencies, our own destructive tendencies, right? We are not Icarus. In similar ways to him, we are not aware of the story of our own demise. We can't think about this in retrospect because it hasn't happened yet, right? The song Virtual Angel outlines very specifically a narrative about ARTMS fans who perish in the end. We simply can't help but look to these virtual angels, these genuinely unknowable things, in an effort to find abstract meaning and understanding about ourselves. It's a hard thing to rationalize because in the end, there is nothing rational about how most of us engage with culture. A virtual angel could be anything that distracts you from yourself, anything that causes you to reforge what is otherwise very simple understandings about who you are into larger than life ideas and concepts. I really think it takes getting to the end of parasocialism, realizing that the virtual angels we look to are not only not real, but all of it will eventually mean nothing to us because it isn't real. This is our own Icarus Falls. The basis for understanding we have about ourselves comes from things that largely do not exist. Perhaps we need to be led to ruin by culture before taking the chance on ourselves in sincerity, knowing how to do that. Culture is not the villain here inherently, rather how we learn to depend on it in ways that subtract from ourselves. ARTMS emphasizes in Virtual Angel that they'll be here for us when our wings break. And so this is Club Icarus, a haven for the broken, a haven for those who have flown too close to the sun and fallen. It's an invitation to re-engage with culture in more mindful ways, following the events of ARTMS's own demise in regards to Luna. The members in interviews have emphasized that Luna will of course always be a part of them, but their taking from and repurposing of aspects of Luna's concept and lore is in attempts to emphasize that ARTMS are very much their own artists with their own new essence. I think part of this first chapter in ARTMS's story works functionally like a bridge away from what Luna was, a gentle reminder to kind of let go. It's a hard thing to do, but necessary for us and them as artists, right? Everybody needs to grow. In this moment of reconstitution, the growing of new wings from the ashes, ARTMS invites us as fans to be reborn with them at Club Icarus, a place where broken people can heal with greater understandings about ourselves and our limits now that we have known and felt what rock bottom is. And so Icarus falls, as a matter of fact. I think the overarching meaning of Club Icarus at a surface level is that we are responsible for ourselves. ARTMS can work as artists to inspire their fans towards that goal, but so many of us get ensnared by inaction. Parasocialism causes this, believing and imagining a better reality for ourselves rather than actually doing something to achieve that. This is my understanding about Icarus, the song itself at least. Probably will have to make another video about the album entirely. Narratively, I think it's about the same or in the same territories. Burn is added at the end of the album, kind of an encouragement to not fear change just because it's uncomfortable and may burn you in the process. You know, the mentioning of the phoenix wing to assure that renewal is possible among the ashes of what was before. Very interesting, very deep things to think about. There is not another group in the realm of K-pop who is taking these kinds of risks in order to deliver on a concept. It is genuinely so hard to emphasize my appreciation for everything ARTMS does, so much to the point that, again, I'm scared to actually take the first steps towards enjoying it. But I am so glad that I did. 10 out of 10 album. Highly recommend both musically and narratively if that's something you're interested in. Yeah, thank you for watching this. If you did, let me know what you think, your thoughts about the narrative and or the music itself, and things like that. Yes, thank you again for watching. Subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time.